Good afternoon, everyone. This is Ines Ifnabong from the Microfinance Centre. It's 2 p.m. and we are starting one of the last talk with leaders. Nevertheless, an interesting one with Gabriele Giugglietti from Banca Etica from Italy.
Hello.
And hello, nice to have you, Gabriele. Um, Banca Etica is a cooperative bank operating in Italy since 1999 and in Spain since 2014. Previously being an MFI, is investing largely in social economy and international cooperation. And the total amount of investment is over 1 billion euros. And we will today talk with Gabriel on the conditions under which this sector can grow and also on the success of Banca Etica. And I wanna encourage you to ask questions in the chat. There will be also a poll, so you can give us a feedback on how the conversation goes. How do you find it interesting? Then I want to start very from the broader perspective, Gabriel, to let us know what do you think are the important conditions that made the growth of the social economy in Italy possible?
Thank you, Nina. I think that we have to go back to the roots of the activities which started. Banca Etica started in 1989 as an MFI, as you said, but as a sort of answer to the needs of the civil society that appeared at that time. The banking system started in Italy eight centuries ago because there was a need for the rich people. Then St. Francis took the opportunity of having a sort of small banks dedicated to the poor, and century after century, the growth of the banking system was even dedicated to poor people or to cooperatives or to small entrepreneurs. In the 70s of the last century, there was a strong need for civil society to have an access to the banking system, to loans, and so on. And this is the reason why there was a sort of a financial system which was not related to the banks, which was called the informal financial system, which supported the social cooperatives, associations, and NGOs at that time. So this is the reason why we decided, as part of this former financial system, to start the operations which were necessary to build up a bank. But I think that the photography of the third sector today of the social economy in Italy is quite important. I have on my desk the last report on the first sector economy, and I would like to say that more or less 2% of our national gross product is produced by this civil economy and social economy, which reaches 5% if we consider even the cooperatives.
Mhm.
And it accounts for 1 million people engaged and 5 million volunteers engaged in these activities. So it's better to give the figures in order to understand that it's not a small thing in my country. But coming back to your question, what is necessary? First of all, it's necessary to understand which are the needs and to talk each other, and to organize meetings and assessments with the networks of the social economy, first of all. Then it's better to demonstrate to the government and to the parliament the real needs and say it is possible to support this kind of economy, which now stands for more than 5 million volunteers,
Mm-hmm.
more than 1 million people engaged, and so on. We
But there was,
yeah,
yep. Go ahead.
we demonstrated to our parliament in 2014, after 15 years of activity of the bank, that we disbursed 1 billion euro to social economy, and the loans were fully reimbursed. But it was important to start a framework, a legal framework, to build up a legal framework in which cooperative associations, NGOs could work within. Otherwise, if you have not a legal framework, it could be difficult, I should say.
And this is interesting, the legal framework. Could you maybe indicate a couple of regulations that actually enable the sector to grow?
Yeah, there have been different laws in the at the end of last century, in 1996 and so on. For example, the one which gives the opportunity to social cooperatives to work on the grounds buildings confiscated to mafia or illegal organizations. So there is a specific opportunity for these associations, NGOs, or foundations or social cooperatives to work on goods, things, buildings, health, which has been confiscated to criminal organizations. First of all, then there is the reform in 2016, which explain states correctly what is an organization of a non-profit organization and what is not, and it states even the financial support from the regions and the municipalities or from the government in order to let them grow, the fiscality, because it's better to remind us the fact that there are the social cooperatives, for example, either they work in the prisons or with migrants, or they engage people who are defavorized, handicapped people, or people coming out from the prisons, ex-addicts, and so on. So it's a sort of a social framework which has been built by our parliament and by our government in order to reach those people who are not easily reachable by the welfare state of the government.
So, and are there any like tax exemptions or any like tax regulations in favor of the social economy entities?
Yes, there is a different framework. A normal company pays around 31% of their revenue, their revenue on their total revenue every year, between 27 and 31%, while a social cooperative has to pay only 2%, which is not paid to the government, but is given to a fund which supports the growth of our social cooperatives, or the growth of the same social cooperatives which already exist.
Okay, so there is a solidarity. There is a solidarity in the system.
Yeah. There is a strong solidarity system, and then there is another thing which is important, that there are all networks. I mean, for example, Lega Nazionale Cooperative gathers more than 1,000 social cooperatives all together. They, on behalf of the government, they check the behavior, the accounts, the balance sheet, and so on every year, in order to say that they are really social cooperatives, they work in that domain, and they behave in a correct way. So there is even a sort of balance control given by the networks too.
And if you could elaborate on the role of the public recruitment that has played in development of the sector.
The public recruitment, well, there is a public support. Public support, if you mean from the state support, which means that some activities are gardening, for example, in the municipality. Then there is a priority given to a social cooperative to take care of, for example, or some healthcare services at home must be carried on by a social cooperative who has to engage at least 30% of defavorized people. Then the others should be sanitary operators and so on, in order to provide good health care services to the families directly at home. This is a part of the welfare system and the sanitary program of my country. So they are supported, but it's better to say that they engage those kind of people who should not be engaged by any company. So it gives an opportunity of dignity to people. And the reason why Banca Etica is supporting them is that growing social economy means even giving an opportunity to all the society to grow in a social, cooperative, and inclusive way.
And it's also, it seems like it's designed that more cooperatives there is, more there will be. I mean, more they succeed, there will be more cooperatives, because the fund to support the new ones is growing once the one existing are succeeding.
The existing and successful take care of the smallest one. Yes.
And
they are not a state program. They are a civil society program. So I perfectly know that in some countries, or Eastern countries, the word cooperative is not a good word going back to the history. But in my country, in Italy, it started the first cooperative 300 years ago. And it was an organization of poor people standing together. They had the possibility to work together, even they didn't have the means. Standing together means cooperating and not competing, but even it means surviving in a different way.
Yeah, so the start in the Eastern Europe was the same. It's just that the last century has corrupted the idea. But yeah, this is important. Obviously, important difference, and this heritage. It's still well, it has the negative consequences in Eastern Europe, definitely. I want to ask you about the approach towards financial instruments. How do you have different approach in terms of the instrument and maybe some other activities than financial ones?
We are a bank like the other banks and controlled by the Central Bank of Italy more than the others, because we cope with situations which are considered for the 50% considered unbankable. These are the results of our survey on the portfolio loans we disbursed in the last 24 years. But what we provide, first of all, they are the cooperatives, the social cooperatives are SMEs, like the other SMEs. So we have the same instruments, guarantee instruments given by the European Commission and given by the banking system all over Italy. So we have guarantee funds in order to cover part of the risks taken with the social cooperatives. But what we do is standing in the networks of cooperatives in order to provide technical assistance services in order to help them to have the opportunity for new funding through public activities through our website. And for example, there is a program in which there should be included in farming some migrants coming from Africa. The social cooperatives ask for funding to all our members, where we have more than 6,000 organizations members and a huge amount of families member of Banca Etica, more than 50,000 families, and we ask to our network to support the growth or the reinforcement of this kind of cooperative. We explain the project. It's all clear on our website in order to explain what we are doing with the money required. So explaining what we do, and for example, giving a clear update of the loans disbursed that gives us the opportunity to explain what we are doing, and the families and people, the individuals, organizations support the growth of this kind of subjects because they see what they are doing.
And what is the proportion of your portfolio? How much of these are the social economy actors? How much of these are just, let's say, traditional SMEs, microfinance institutions? If you could.
Can you repeat the question, please? Because I didn't catch you.
Yeah. So I ask for the proportion of your investment portfolio, or
Yeah.
like, so what are how many of these are the social cooperatives or just social economy actors, MFI?
Social cooperatives stand for around 60% of our portfolio, which accounts for 1,300,000,000 euros. 65%. Then there are around 20% in renewable energies economy, and the rest is dedicated to the families, to the family needs, housing or small farming, for example. But the social cooperative activities is the main stream of the activities of the bank. When I was explaining, there are more than 360,000 organizations in the first sector, so it's a huge sector in my country. If they account for 5% of our gross product, you understand that it's not only Banca Etica. The needs are around 15 billion euros per year, and we are only at 1 billion. So you perfectly understand that the growth is enormous, the needs are enormous, and if the question is, it's interesting for the MFIs, yes, it is interesting because we have seen where we work, not only in Italy and in Spain, but even in Sub-Saharan Africa, in Latin America, and in Palestine, that when we give finance to social organizations, there is a social control on them, which gives us more opportunities to be reimbursed than an individual, of course.
Yes, so
we have less than 1% of losses on the loans disbursed.
Mm-hmm.
The track record of 24 years.
That's amazing. Like that, the fact that the cooperative or the group governance really lowers the risk. But I also wonder, at the same time, very often the same organizations, they have rather low profit. And how does this? That's the payoff. I mean, I guess lower the risk, but a small profit. And is it like financially sustainable for you?
Yes, it is, because for example, the loans we disburse loans which are dedicated to their normal activity. So it's repaid through the activities they carry on. But it's better to underline, yes, they have low incomes, but they pay a very strong social dividend to the whole community. This is the strong difference. And look, there is another thing which is very important. I told you about more than 5 million volunteers supporting this sector. So if there are people who want to spend their part of their life and dedicated to this kind of organizations for free, it means that there are more opportunities. There is more richness around the capacity, the normal capacity of the activity of this kind of cooperatives. There is a strong support, and this strong support, even if it's not seen, even if it doesn't transform in a better income, it means that they are resilient, and this is the reason why we can afford financing them if they are considered not bankable.
I think this is really a great summary, and And also something to remember, to repeat, that this really the resilience coming from the cooperative forms and from the social economy that is understood exactly as a cooperative one. What is the my last question would be, where is Banca Etica looking for in the future?
What we are looking for?
Mm.
Well, we come from microfinance and fair trade, which was the first activity we carried on 30 years ago. And what we would like to do in a network, of course. So, for example, with Microfinance Centre, as we have a strong cooperation with you since 2016. I think that what we can do is to support the growth of microfinance entities where they decide to support social economy. We are not interested in business for business. So supporting MFIs with very strong social connections is our goal everywhere. But when we have a strong cooperation like the one we have with you, we can do a better job than in the other cases. We don't like to act all alone, but the only way we know is to cooperate, is not to compete.
Thank you very much for sharing this and for your contribution, Gabriele, and for contribution for this conversation, also for the conference. And I wish you best of luck and many interesting projects and impact, because I think it's a really being a leader, such leader, is a privilege but also responsibility. So.
Thank you, Nina, and to all the attendants, and thank you for organizing this meeting. I think that we can do a very good job standing together, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.